So we're going to start by thinking about some paradigm shifts and how the context for all of this and why our field has come to this point of more inclusive practice. So I want to start with this idea about what is a paradigm shift. And the reason that I'm starting here is because I'm hoping that, and I'm expecting that may happen tonight for some of you. All of you I'd love, but at least for some of you. So a paradigm shift is basically a transformation in the way that we think. It's a reframing, if you will, of our reality. And in order to have a paradigm shift, either personally or organizationally, we have to get down to the level of values and assumptions. Okay? So I'll be talking a little bit about that. So here it is, after dinner. Many of you have been in the course the last couple of days, or you've been at work and working hard. So I need to wake up your brain. So we're going to start with a couple of quick exercises to do that. Okay? You see at the bottom of page 1, you have a figure, but you also then have some blank space. So get your pens out. In the blank space, we're going to start with one of the classic paradigm shifting exercises. And some of you may be very familiar with this and get it right away. But it asks you to connect these 9 dots with 4 straight lines without lifting your pen once you start drawing. So I'm going to give you just a minute to play with that. Connecting all 9 dots, 4 straight lines, without lifting your pen once you start. So, you see that there's blank space on the left-hand side at the bottom. I hope you've picked up that that's where you're supposed to draw your 9 dots. Because these dots don't look like the dots that are on your page, do they? Wake up! I know it's been a long day for some. Anybody think they've got a solution? I see some yeses out there. That's great. Well, let me show you one solution. And there are many different starting points and many different ways to do this. So watch the screen so that when I do the little animation, I don't have to go back up and do the whole slide again. Okay, ready? Okay, so watch. Anybody get it? Yep. So this is the classic think outside the box exercise. And it's been used in lots of management training and all sorts of situations. But what it does is force you to go beyond the obvious. And so in the realm of our work with community engagement, what that means is that sometimes you have to push beyond your existing mission and vision and your professional practices. Okay? And that's okay. I'm here to tell you that that's okay. Because you're not undermining those things, but you may have to go outside of that to get this process started in a meaningful way in response to what is happening in your communities. Okay? Let's do one more. And that's the one that you have there on the page, and it takes me just a minute here to get all the circles up on this slide. So what it's asking you to do is to move 3 of these dots to create a mirror image. So you can see how the dots are pointing down. Move 3 dots so that the triangle points up. Okay, so take a look and I'll show you a solution. Okay, is everybody watching? Okay, here we go. So there's 2 lessons in this little exercise. Did you notice that the dots in the middle, the 7 dots in the middle, did not change? So that should put some of you at ease, because in any sort of change process there is always continuity. Okay? So when you apply that to your own organization, your core foundations of who you are and why you exist and what you do, they're still there. That foundation is still there for you, even as you reach out and focus on community engagement. The second lesson in this is that sometimes if you're not sure where you're going, it helps you to begin with the end in mind. So when you have that vision now of how we made that switch, it's easier to see the big picture. Okay? So a couple of quick exercises to wake up your brain. Now what I want to do is apply this and have you think about what I think are 3 major paradigm shifts in our field. And they've been going on for a while, and we're not there yet. They are still going on, but I want to talk about all 3. And then this is the context for where we are now in terms of community engagement. So the first one is about public service and this mandate now for public service. And what I think that is doing is reframing our organizations to focus on long-term effectiveness rather than short-term efficiency. And of the 3 paradigm shifts, this is the most challenging for a lot of folks. Okay, because we are grounded in a efficiency paradigm. And sometimes that is mandated to us in terms of our annual budgets or end goals and the way that we're funded, the way that we're governed, all of those sorts of things. But if you think about the work of Stephen Weil, Harold Scram said, many of the luminaries in our field, this is the fundamental shift that they're talking about. And it's important because our accountability and the way that we are valued, or the way that, not valued, the way that we are judged by all sorts of outside external forces has now shifted. And it is less about how wonderful we are in terms of our collections and our facilities and our wonderful staffs and our wonderful boards and all the assets that we have. It's now about what kind of public value, important value, can we demonstrate to the communities that we are trying to serve. That's the new bottom line. And frankly, a lot of us don't even begin to measure up, because we're stuck in that old paradigm. So this is about focusing less on doing everything right. Now think about that for a minute, because our whole field has focused on professional practices and how to do everything right. Many of us, our whole training was focused on that. So now I'm asking you to go beyond that. Okay? To not focus on doing everything right, but to focus on doing the right things to begin with. So it's asking, why are we doing what we're doing? And why does it matter? Does it matter? Many of our organizations fundamentally do not matter to the communities we're trying to serve. And that's not easy or fun to hear. But the bottom line is when natural disasters hit, like the floods that just hit here, fires, plagues, crime, whatever it is that's affecting the community. Museums are often, cultural organizations are off way inside. They're not a community player. They're not even, in many communities, even imagined to be part of the solution. And we need to change that to fundamentally matter to our organizations. And one of the ways that you start to make this shift is to begin to focus on what people in your community care about. And focus on how can you make a real difference in your community. So this is the foundation, I think, the new foundation for all of our professional practices. Because none of those matter. And that may sound sacrilegious for me to say, but I can say it to you as somebody who's been in this field for 35 years. None of that matters if your organizations don't matter. So we have to work on this shift. Okay? Second one is the idea that rather than operating in silos, and we've done this disservice to ourselves in some ways in our professional training. We need to be focusing on the community engagement and the whole public dimension of your organization as everyone's business, as everyone's job. In the same way that development in your organization must be everyone's job, because everyone's job affects that. Okay? So this idea of engaging community, it's very transformative. And if you go down this path with openness and honesty and sincerity, it will transform fundamentally the way you think and the way you work and the way our organizations do business. This is about becoming a dialogic place, facilitating timely dialogue on important things that really matter to people, and helping people to see our organizations as those safe, wonderful, neutral places that people can come and have those dialogues. And so what this means is that our internal culture is going to change. Because if you do this, then you are empowering everyone in your enterprise. From top positions in board and governance, all the way down to the wonderful volunteers that are important and are part of your enterprise. Everybody matters, and everybody has an equal stake and an equal role in this. And it also, when you push that envelope a little bit farther and you start to involve people from the community, and they begin to start to see your place as their place, it changes everything that we do. So that's another important paradigm shift. The third one is about becoming learning organizations. And so this is about walking our talk. If we pride ourselves as educational organizations and we want our visitors to come and be enriched and learn and all of those wonderful sorts of things, we also need to then do that for ourselves. And we need to then focus on our own personal mastery and our collective, our team learning. We need to focus on organizational development. Now, when I say organizational development, the first words that pop into most people's minds is money and bricks and mortar, right? The most important aspects of organizational development are what you invest in people and what you invest in processes and systems, how people work, how you make decisions, how you allocate resources, how you learn collectively and then imbue that learning into the organization so that you move forward and you don't keep making the same mistakes over and over and over and over. Systems thinking is one of the key principles in the organizational learning literature, and there is a whole now huge organizational literature on organizational learning. When I started my doctoral work in 1990, it was just sort of coming to the fore. Yeah, but now there's a whole rich empirical body of literature to support this. So system thinking is the idea that you're not just focusing on your project, your department, your budget, whatever it is you're doing. That every decision that you make in an organization affects everyone else. It may not be immediately, but it's like a domino effect. So we need to be thinking about the big picture, and we need to be thinking about all of everything that we do and how it interacts with everything else that's happening, internally and externally. Okay? And we need to start embracing leadership at all levels of our organization. Leadership has nothing to do with authority or position, let me assure you. It's a very different equation in terms of personal power and personal influence and knowledge and the way people work together. And the most supported empirical research, after tens of thousands of studies about leadership, the only type of leadership that is empirically supported is transformational leadership. So if you want to know more about leadership, this is where don't read all of those. I read thousands of them, and I wouldn't encourage anybody to do that. But start with transformational leadership, and it's very different than charismatic leadership. Charismatic leadership, the focus is on me, the leader. Transformational, and that doesn't work because I could be good or bad, right? Transformational leadership focuses on the collective. And everyone in the enterprise has to be part of that. And it is fueled by inspiring people to achieve a higher purpose. And it takes courage and it takes integrity. Because as the leader, if you aspire to that, it can't be about you and your career and your personal aggrandizement. And some of the most inspirational transformational leaders I've known have taken the fall to do what is right for the organization and the collective, to stand up for that. So it's about teams, it's about giving everybody a role, it's about partnerships, and it's finally about valuing the learning and the process as much as the outcome. In fact, I'd argue that the learning is the most important outcome of everything that we do. So we could make terrible mistakes in a product, whether it's an exhibit, a program, an event, whatever it is. But if we're learning, that's been a great success. Okay, so there's the three, and here's some new thinking just to sort of frame it about organizations. There have been some shifts in the predominant models for organizations. We have moved from the early 20th century to models that focused on mechanics and machines, organization as machine, and all of the parts, control, function, task, all of that sort of stuff, to now models that look at organizations as organic systems. And there's kind of systems that have inputs and that have outputs, and that are influenced by external as well as internal. Okay, so it's much more organic now. The last little piece that I want to talk to you, just mention for part one, is I want to talk to you a little bit about chaos, because chaos theory, I think, is very applicable to the museum field. So the simplest way to explain chaos theory to you, if you're not familiar with it, is with the figure 8. So the point in the middle is where we try to bring our lives, our families, our work environments, our activities, whatever it is, back to some semblance of order. But the universal law in terms of chaos is that every time we do that, the universe pushes back to chaos. So and you're going to have two reactions to that. Some of you are going to feel really uptight because it's out of your control. On On the other hand, if you flip that over and you think, well, if that's a universal law, I'm just going to go with the flow and relax, right? Because chaos is a universal law. And the scientists, as they've studied these, have started to study these complex systems and all sorts of things, and they have found order in chaos. And the most exciting part of this research that I think is applicable to us is that they say that there's a point where, on the edge of chaos, when you think you have order and then you're going back to chaos, that is the point of utmost creativity. So apply that to organizational change, apply it to changes in your own life, apply all those aha moments when you think, why am I doing what am I doing? Or, when you think touching your heart and you figure out what you really want to be doing. So those are the times when we should be really taking advantage of, using innovation and creativity, retooling our practices, rethinking our values, reinvigorating our staff, reconnecting with our community, reimagining our future, not retrenching. Okay? And I say it like that because our immediate human response is to retrench. But that's not at all what we should be doing. My dissertation research was on organizational change in museums, and when I think about the patterns that were most successful, those were the organizations that did not retrench in the face of crisis. Instead, they reinvested in their product and what they were doing, and they reinvented themselves to, at the end of that crisis, come out to be much stronger and much more nimble and creative and innovative. Okay, so these are sort of some major forces for change. We don't have time tonight to go through all of these, and you're going to hear me a couple of times talk about a follow-up workshop that we're hoping that AMA is going to do in this area. And in the workshop, we are able to explore these in much more depth. But let me just read them for the purpose of our streaming live, and so that you can begin to start to think about them. The challenging global economy. There's not a single organization in our field that hasn't been touched by that. Embracing diversity and multiculturalism. Canada, in some ways, is way ahead of the States in this. I mean, it is a part of your daily life. Visitors' needs, interests, and learning. There has been just an explosion of research about visitors' needs and learning in our field over the last 3 decades, and we now have a rich body of empirical research to draw on in the same way that we do for our scholarship, our content scholarship. That has led to the most current thinking about visitor ownership, visitor participation and ownership. The idea that visitors want much more control over their experiences with us. It is a social experience. It's about who they came with as much as who we are and what we offer to them. And they want that choice and control, and it's their agenda that matters, not ours. Okay? Changing director, curator, and educator roles. There's no question that the roles in our field have been changing dramatically in the last couple of decades. As directors take on more, educators have also risen in prominence, and in many situations, curators have been challenged to redefine their role from sole authority and prima donna or king in some organizations to facilitator with expertise of community dialogue. So I think the switching of roles, which is always hard in organizations, has been most difficult for many curators in our field. But there are many that are really embracing a new role and doing great. The whole area about running museums as effective organizations, we have so much to learn, and it's out there. The information is out there. It's just not necessarily in our own training and our own experience. But there's a lot of wonderful tools and models and empirical evidence to help us. No question that technology has changed our lives and continues to change our lives and has been a force for change in many of our organizations. And finally, social responsibility, enterprise, innovation, and entrepreneurship. And I use all those words because the movement, even though it's worldwide, uses all of those words in some guise. So you might see it under any of those titles. But that is basically pushing us to make a more meaningful difference in our communities. And so this is sort of my heart and soul passion. This is where I would like to see our field go, because I think it's frankly unconscionable that we have the resources that we have and we're not doing more in our communities.